Hi, in this video, we are going to discuss data presentation tools. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to correctly use different graphs for their specific purposes and properly create a graph based on a given data. Now, why do we need to use graphs in presenting a set of data? How do we choose the best type of graph suited to present your data? Let's find out. The first type of graph is we have the bar graph. It uses the height or length of the bar to represent how often a particular category was observed. Therefore, it shows us the frequency of each category using its height or the length of the bar. Example, to draw a bar graph, we plot the frequency against the categories as shown in this figure. So we have here a survey on the result of a survey on fruit preference. So we have apples, bananas, grapes, mangoes, oranges, and strawberries. In this bar graph, we can see here that we have 4 apples, okay, as indicated by the height of the bar. So it stops here sa 4. Therefore, we have 4 apples. For the bananas naman, we have here yung dulo niyan, yung dulo ng bar, it stops at 2. So therefore, it means we have 2 bananas. And so on with grapes, we have 3. Mangoes naman, we have 4 and 4 oranges and 3 strawberries. Now, let's have an example on how to manually construct a bar graph. We have here the result of a survey on favorite sports. So we have 10 for badminton, 12 for basketball, volleyball 5, and soccer 3. So if we are going to construct a bar graph for this, remember that we are going to plot the frequency against the categories. So we put the categories here and the frequency right here. Now, take a look at the frequency. The lowest is 3 and the highest is 12. So maybe we can have the maximum for the frequency would be at, let's say, 15 or 14. So we can have intervals of 2. Okay, so we have here, let's say, straight yan. Okay, just imagine it's a straight line. And then we can have by 2. So we have 2, 4. It should be the same interval, huh? We have here 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Okay, so we can erase that later. So we can have here badminton, we have basketball, volleyball, and soccer. Okay. Sa badminton, we have 10. So, dapat hanggang dito siya, no? So, badminton, gawa tayo ng bar. Okay, badminton, ganyan. Tapos, i-shade lang natin ito. Okay, shade lang yan. And for basketball, ilan? 12. Oh, ang highest pala natin ay 12. So, dagdag tayo dito. Okay, 14. So, para dito yung highest natin. Pwede naman hanggang 12, pero mas maganda yung may extension ng konti. Okay, so we have, this is for basketball. You can use your ruler naman to make your bar straight, your line straight. And then shade lang yan. And then for volleyball, we have 5. Si 5 naman, we only have 4 and 6, meaning si 5 andito sa gitna, between 4 and 6. So we can have, when you use Excel or computers, merong naka-indicate na naka-continue yan dyan, no? Yan. May ganyan. Okay. Para maging guide, no? When you look at the figures. And so, if we have this one, 4, so andito si 5. Yan, volleyball is somewhere right here. Okay, so parang 4 pala yan. 5. Okay, si 5 parang andito siya. Okay, 5. Okay? And yung soccer naman is 3. So, 3 is between 2 and 4. So, dito siya. Okay? And then, shade lang natin. Alright? So, kung ganyan si 2, okay. So, meaning that's 3. Tapos si 4, ano yung dito. And, merong demark dito. So, that's the end. Okay. So, you can put your title here. Let's say, favorite sports. Or, pwede naman dito sa loob. Ayan. Okay. So, this is an example of manually created bar graph. Okay. Nowadays, marami na tayong software, no? Or especially sa we can create graphs sa Word, sa Excel, sa PowerPoint. Pwede naman. We also have what we call pie chart. Kanina, bar graph. Ito naman, pie chart. Pie chart is a circular graph that shows how the categories are distributed. So, we have here an example of a pie chart or tinatawag din minsan na pie graph. Right? To draw a pie chart, assign one sector of a circle to each category. As you can see here, each category, ayan, each category has a sector in the pie graph. Okay, it's divided yan according to their percentages. So, the angle of each sector should be proportional to the relative frequency in that category. So, since one full circle has 360 degrees, then we can find the angle of each category by multiplying the relative frequency by 360 degrees. Okay? Malalaman natin kung gaano kalaki itong sector para sa isang category by multiplying the relative frequency which we can have sa frequency distribution table. Multiplying the relative frequency by 360 degrees. Kasi yung isang buong circle, that's 360 degrees. Okay, let's have an example. Balik tayo dun sa favorite sports. We have here badminton. Ngayon naman, nag-construct na tayo ng frequency distribution table with the relative frequency and percentage. Okay? So, si badminton 10, ang relative frequency niya ay 0.33. If you want to review on how to get the relative frequency and the percentage, you can watch the previous video on frequency distribution table. Okay? Or just a short review. It's just, let's say, badminton 10. 10 divided by 30. So, that's 0.33. That's the relative frequency. And then you just multiply this by 100. You can get the percentage. Okay. Let's construct now a pie chart. So, first, we draw a circle. Okay. Again, this is, I'm teaching you now how to manually create a pie chart. But you can still use Word, Excel, PowerPoint to construct pie graph. So, meron na doon, parang automatic na, i-encode mo lang yung frequency ng mga categories and it will generate a pie chart. Okay, ngayon naman manual tayo using a protractor. You see this? We call this a protractor. Okay, let's say this is our point of reference and this is the center of our circle. Okay, so yung badminton naman, it's 10. Frequency niya ay 10. So, the relative frequency is 0.33. So, gaano kalaki dito sa part ng circle ang para sa badminton? So, we compute for the sector, the size of the sector for badminton. We have, multiply natin yung 360 degrees by the relative frequency. That's 0.33. Okay? And multiplying that, that's 360 degrees times 0.33. And so you have 118.8 degrees. Okay, 118.8 degrees. Saan banda yan? Sa protractor, hahanapin natin. This is 0 degrees. So, 10, 20. This is 90. That's 100, 110. 120 ito. So, dito si 118. So, dito si 118.8. Okay? And so, we just connect this with the center. Ayan. You can use a ruler. Ako naman, hindi ako makakagamit ng ruler. Kaya, ito na lang. Ganito. Okay. Just imagine that's a straight line. And this is the point of reference. Okay? Ayan. So, this is now for badminton. Okay? And what percent is the badminton? That's 33%. Ito. Okay. That's it. How about for the basketball? So, ito yung portion ngayon. You can erase this later. Ayan, ito din dito. So, sa basketball naman, we are going to compute for the size of the sector, basketball. So, we still have 360 degrees, the same lang, and then the relative frequency is 0.4 or 0.40. So, i-multiply mo lang yan. That's 360 times 0.40 or 0.4. That gives you 144 degrees. Okay, 144 degrees. So, hahanapin natin dito ulit si protractor. So, dito na tayo mag-start ng 0. Okay, and then we look for 100. This is 90, 110, 120, 130, 140. This is 150. So, 145 ito. So, 145, 144 ito dito. Okay, so, andito si 144. Connect lang natin yan from the center. Okay, imagine this is a straight line. Okay. So, this is for basketball. And this is percentage niya is 40%. Okay, 40%. Ayan. So, eto na yung sa kanya. Now, we have volleyball. Okay? Sa volleyball naman, okay, volleyball, dito na lang. Okay, scratch paper ito. Volleyball, so we have 360 degrees times yung relative frequency niya is 0.17. Multiplying that, 360 times 0.17, that is equal to 61.2. Okay, 61.2. So, gagamit tayo ulit ng protractor. Dito na tayo magsi-0, point of reference na dito sa next. And so, 61. So, we have 50, 60. So, 61, dito siya banda. So, connect lang natin yan. Oops, straight line. Ayun. So, this is for the volleyball. This is ilang percentage pa? 17%. Okay, 17%. Ayan na siya. So, meaning, itong natira dito, isa na lang naman yung natira. So, this is for soccer. You can use the protractor again to make sure that this is really the right sector for the soccer. So, this is 10%. Okay. So, sa soccer naman, it's just, again, 360 degrees times yung 0.10. And that would give you yung measure ng sector na yan. So, ang soccer is 0.10 or 360 times 0.10, and that would give you 36 degrees. You can use the protractor again to really make sure that this is 36 degrees. Okay? So, let's analyze lang based on this one. So, pinakamalaking parte, that's 40% yung basketball. Yung second to the highest is 33%. Next, yung volleyball, 17%. Okay? And soccer. Ayan. So, proportional yung size ng parts ng pie chart natin dun sa percentages nila. Okay? So, again, this is how to manually construct pie charts. You may also put colors in your pie chart. So, you may color your pie chart to distinguish the categories from each other. So, yung kanina, nilagyan natin ng names, kasi medyo mahirap sa akin on this to add colors. Dito naman, so when you use Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, pwede naman maka-generate ka agad ng colors for your pie chart. And pag may mga colors na usually, yung names ng categories, nasa legend na yan. And andito na for each sector, nag-a-assign siya ng different colors. So, we can have this color for apple. So, hanapin niyo na lang kung alin dyan. So, that's for pie chart. The next type of graph is the line graph. It uses dots and lines to discern pattern or trend. Okay? Pattern or trend that could continue into the future. To draw a line graph, we have here an example of a line graph. To draw a line graph, we plot the time. That's for the horizontal. Andito siya. Okay, the horizontal, this is the time or the day, ano. So, kung minutes ang given, pwede dyan. Kung a period of time, andito banda sa horizontal. Against the observed phenomena, that's vertical, andito siya. Okay, so in this case, temperature ito. Then connect them using lines. This pattern could be used to predict future events. Kasi pag pag na-distinguish na ang pattern, so you can predict, ang susunod nito, ganito na naman. Okay? So that's the use of line graph. So time series, yung mga may time element like days, minutes, or seconds, years. So those are time series. Time series is best presented on a line graph. So mas appropriate for a time series yung line graph. Okay? Ang histogram naman, it resembles a bar graph. Ito, para siyang bar graph, di ba? Kaya lang, ang kaibahan niya sa itsura is that yung bar graph naka-separate. Ito naman connected sila to each other. To also create a certain pattern, ano? Histogram resembles a bar graph and shows how often measurements fall in a particular class or sub-interval. Okay? To construct a histogram, we must construct a frequency distribution table for a group data. So, ibig sabihin, eto naka-intervals yan. Okay? Naka-intervals. Not like yung apples, yung banana. May mga specific na category. Ano? May specific na category. So, those kinds of data, pwede yun siya sa bar graph. But if we have here intervals, group data, ibig sabihin 1 to 10. So, isa. So, these are ages of Rocky's neighbors. Ano? So, yung age 1 to 10, may isa. Okay? Hindi natin alam kung ano particularly yung age niya. Basta, within this bracket, within this interval, merong isa. Between 11 and 20, merong dalawa. And so on, hanggang 71 to 80, merong tatlo. Okay, so this is now the frequency distribution table of the age of Rocky's neighbors. So when we plot that, we put the intervals here sa horizontal and of course the frequency dito sa vertical. So 1 to 10, merong 1. So, andito si 1. So parang bar lang din siya pero nakadikit sila, ha? Dikit-dikit yan. And naka-intervals yung data natin. So hindi na yung apple, hindi na yung specific na category. Okay? Intervals na dito. So that's histogram. Ang ogive naman, an ogive is a cumulative frequency graph. Okay, cumulative frequency graph. When we say cumulative, ibig sabihin na add. Okay, inadd yung previous sa present. Okay, so that's cumulative frequency graph. To get the cumulative frequency of a class, we refer to this as class, no? Class intervals. So we must add its frequency to all the preceding frequencies. The first frequency is also the first cumulative frequency. Note that the cumulative frequency of the last class is the total frequency. So we have here an addition to frequency, di ba yung common na, sabi ko nga, common frequency distribution table, merong relative frequency, may percentage. Another part of frequency distribution table is the cumulative frequency. So we can add this here in our frequency distribution table. Ang cumulative frequency class, i-add mo lang siya. Let's start here from the from 1 to 10. That's 1. Okay, this is the first cumulative frequency. I-add lang natin yung sunod. That's 2. So this is 3. 3 plus 3, that's 6. 6 plus 4, that's 10. 10 plus 3, that's 13. 13 plus 1, that's 14. 14 plus 3, that's 17. And 17 plus 3, that's 20. Take note that the last frequency is the total number of frequency. Okay? And so when we have this cumulative frequency in our distribution table, frequency distribution table, we can now have, or we can now construct our ogive. Okay? A cumulative frequency graph. So, here, ang ipa-plot natin, hindi na yung class interval, but it's the upper limit of the class interval or the class. The 1 is the lower limit, 10 is the upper limit. So, 10 ang isusulat. Ito naman, 11 to 20, 20 na. 21 to 30, that's 30. Okay? And so, we have here, we plot the points and connect them with lines using the cumulative frequencies on the vertical axis. Vertical axis, this is the cumulative frequency. Okay? And the class intervals on the horizontal axis. Okay, class interval. But each point must be plotted at the upper limit of the class boundary. So, yung sabi ko nga, upper limits, these are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Kaya meron tayong 10, 20, ganyan dito. Okay? Then we make a point or put a point dito sa cumulative class frequency. Yung 10 naman, that's 1. Kaya 1 dito. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Dapat equal ang sizes niyan. Hindi pwedeng 5 dito, tapos 20, tapos 50, tapos 100. Hindi pwede. It should be equal sizes. So, 5, 10, 15, or kung 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so on. Okay? So, we have 1, and then yung 20 naman is 3. Okay, dito siya. Yung 30, we have 6. Yung 36, okay? And then, when you have plotted the points, okay, i-connect nyo lang yung points. And that is already the line graph. Okay? Parang line na siya, no? Parang line graph. But it's cumulative frequency. So, this is particularly an ogive. Okay? Again, ogive. Let's have an example. Mr. De La Cruz wanted to present his monthly sales in an easier way for his boss. The frequency distribution table is presented below. Kaya ito yan. If his boss wanted him to present it using a bar graph, what would his graph look like? Bar graph tayo, no? So, ganyan yan. And so, we have, based on the given table, we can conclude that each category is best to describe by their frequencies because we have specific categories. Ano? Recall that a bar graph uses the height or length of the bar to represent how often a particular category was observed. So, the height of each bar tells us the corresponding frequency of each category. So, in this kind of data, mas appropriate sa kanya yung bar graph. Thus, to present this data, we can use a bar graph for his boss to understand fruit sales easier. So, from the bar graph, we can determine which fruit sells the most and the fruit that sells the least. In addition to that, a bar graph can tell us the difference between the sales of each fruit. Okay? So, to draw a bar graph, plot the frequency against the categories as shown in this graph. So, ito na yung bar graph na gagawin or ginawa. So, for apple, 50 lahat yan. So, eto ng categories dito sa horizontal. Sa vertical naman, that's the frequency. Take note that the highest frequency is 60. 60. So, nag-expand lang ng konti, 70. So, take note here na equal ang distances, equal ang interval. So, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So, hindi siya pwedeng 2 and then 10, tapos 100, hindi pwedeng ganon. So, equal dapat. 10, 20, 30, 40. Okay? So, this is now the bar graph. Example number 2. Jeremy's boss wanted to know and see more easily if the sales for their mangoes increased or decreased. Given the data below, show whether the sales increased or decreased across the months. Okay, we have months here. Oh, time series. Ayan. The given data is an example of a time series. It is a series that depends on a given time frame. Recall that a line graph uses dots and lines to discern a pattern or trend that could continue into the future. It means that a line graph is best suited for a time series. Okay? So, the line graph can easily tell us the sales trend from a given time frame. It also allows us to give a prediction for the sales in the next few months. To draw a line graph, we just plot the time, that's for the horizontal, against the observed phenomena sa vertical, then connect then connect them using lines. Then, this pattern could then be used to predict future events. So, ito na ang mangyayari sa kanya. So, we put here sa horizontal yung time frame, ano? So, in this case, months. Dito sa vertical, of course, yung frequency. Ayan. Ang highest dito is 20. Okay, 20. So, nag-expand ng konti. 25. And take note, equal interval by 5. So, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Yung January is 10. So, we have here 10. So, nag-plot ng point na 10. Ang February, 12. So, slightly dito siya. Ayan. And si March 14. Okay. And then, connect lang ang dots. So, connect ang dots. Ayan. And that's the line graph.